Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, hopefully it's a shorter one today, man. I didn't even get spivvied up, no jersey or nothing on today because I wanted to talk about this topic real quick. Late last night, I got tagged in DMs several times about this crazy idea of Deebo Samuel coming to the Chargers. Oh man, it could actually happen, and it's one thing that honestly does blow my mind a little bit. Deebo Samuel, if you guys didn't know, I knew that he deleted all his Niners content from his social media. Man, we see that a lot. I know that he wants to get paid the big bucks. He probably should be. He had a monstrous season last year, and it turns out again he may want out, and I do think there's a real chance that he does get dealt. This does kind of remind me a little bit of the Tyreek Hill situation we had just a few weeks ago, but this time with Deebo Samuel and the Chargers, there's whispers that the Bolts could make sense here, and that's honestly to my surprise. I think the Chargers at this point, if we're thinking wide receiver, we're thinking the draft, but could there be another trade on the horizon this time for the very talented and proven Deebo Samuel that's might just be starting to hit his peak in the NFL? I mean, sure, but this is completely coming out of left field for me, guys, and again, it's a topic that I've been asked a lot about, so we're going to go ahead and try and cover it today, man. The thought of Deebo joining the Bolts is absolutely ludicrous, right? Like the next level insanity. It would be just such a boost to this team that honestly should strike fear into every AFC West rival. Do I think it happens? What would it take to go out there and get him? And do I think this is the move that the Chargers should make? We're going to be answering these questions in the video today. Before we do get started, guys, question in the comments like we always do. Very simple one. Deebo would come at a very steep cost. Okay, we're talking draft compensation, even a new contract, obviously. That's kind of why he's holding out. Do you do it? That's it. Would you trade for Deebo Samuel? Let me know in the comment section below. Well, guys, before we do get started, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. Deebo Samuel to the Chargers? Big question mark, huge question mark. Of course, I think a lot of Chargers fans on the surface are probably thinking there's no way in heck, but at the same time, man, doing a little bit of reading, doing a little bit of like kind of gauging what's going on with Deebo Samuel and his situation. The Chargers have been listed a few times as a potential fit and one that might actually be the best fit for him as a player, what he's looking for in money and in terms of fit and what he's going to be doing in offense. So Deebo Samuel, if you guys didn't know, again, like we mentioned at the top here, he deleted the social media stuff. He wants the big money. And I think it is absolutely justified. He's ready to cash in. Deebo is still on his rookie deal. He just turned 26 in January. It's time to start talking big bucks. And of course, if you're the Niners, you want to put it off another year, try and figure out the money in the future. But I'd see no reason why the Niners wouldn't try and go out there and extend Deebo Samuel right away, as he really was the heart and soul of this offense, right? This season saw a ton of great wide receivers get paid super high contracts, and I do think it's time for Deebo to get the same treatment. Now, Deebo, to give you guys kind of an idea, if the Chargers were to go out there and add him, what would he cost? I mean, you're talking in terms of, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. I'm going to guess somewhere between $25 and $30 million is what Deebo Samuel would be worth. And wow, that is a huge number, but it's one that honestly, again, not very many opportunities in Chargers history where you could pull something off like this. Rookie contract for Justin Herbert, some rookie contracts out there for some talented players, Asante Samuel Jr., Rashawn Slater. The Chargers could afford it, but that is a pretty high price tag just off the bat without even talking about draft compensation. Now, the Chargers, in my opinion, they've already made some big moves, right? Big moves, big names. Big moves, J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack, etc., etc. This has already been a very uncharacteristic off-season for the Chargers. Very reminiscent, I would say, of the recent L.A. Rams. And I can definitely see why Brandon Staley is throwing down the gauntlet. Of course, it's a strategy that's kind of been proven to work a little bit more than not in recent seasons. The Bucks, the L.A. Rams, of course, there is evidence to suggest that throwing it down, grabbing these super talented players and loading up a roster could result in a Super Bowl ring. But at the Chargers at this point of the game, do they have the compensation? Do they have the money? Yes, they absolutely do. Is it something that they should do? Well, some people have been arguing that both the big moves that we have made via trade, via free agency, have been to boost the defense. Is it time to make a move to help boost this offense? It very well could be. It could be through trade. It could be through the draft. You never know. Now, Deebo, the player himself, the destroyer of humanity. All right. Anybody who drafted Deebo Samuel in fantasy last year, raise your hand, dude, because you hit big, man. Like really, really big. Deebo with Jimmy Garoppolo, with Trey Lance. This man went for 1,405 yards and 6 touchdowns just through the air. He also added 365 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. That's an unbelievable total of 1,770 yards, 14 touchdowns in 2021 alone. And that was off of 121 targets and 59 rushing attempts. Like, what? This guy's the do-it-all player, man. This puts Deebo at 5th in the league in receiving yards and 3rd in total yards in 2021. He's an absolute beast. There's nobody arguing against that, right? Deebo Samuel, in his breakout season in 2021, very well could be, showing flashes of being the best wide receiver in football very soon. As Devontae Adams continues to age, Julio Jones has already kind of fallen off. It could be the era of Deebo. And that's, what's wild is, again, he just now broke out. He could just get even better. And this kind of reminds me a little bit, his play style, the kind of what he brings to an offense. Kind of reminds me of like a super juiced Cordero Patterson, right? A guy that can do it all on the ground, through the air, whatever, man. He's going to put up monster numbers. But the difference between the two of them is, obviously Deebo is much younger. And honestly, he could turn out to be the very best wide receiver in football very, very soon. His physical and fluid style of play is something to watch. It's something to behold, I should say. He's fast but not blazing. But wow, his acceleration is absolutely wild. He hits top speed faster than any wide receiver his size, in my opinion. Now, he's not the tallest guy, but man, his dude is beefy. He's thick. He's got the physical, stature to go out there and really throw down some big plays at a level that a lot of the other wide receivers definitely could not. He creates consistent separation. He's a baller in 50-50 situations. He's just insane. He's the perfect wide receiver one for pretty much any team in the NFL. And if I'm a Niners fan, again, I have to reiterate this, dude. I'm throwing this man the bag, dude. I don't care what it costs. He could be the top paid wide receiver in football for all I care. I give this man his payday. But I do have to point out that a trade is also super, super likely, kind of given the state of the team, given the state of, do they have a quarterback? Is Trey Lance really the guy? I think a lot of what they're thinking in terms of their offense could determine what happens with Deebo Samuel in the near future. Now, the thought of Deebo Samuel to the Bolts is certainly exciting, right? This idea of Deebo joining the Chargers is just maddening to me, right? You guys get maddening? Okay, I kill myself sometimes, but really it's wild, okay? And in some ways it does make a lot of sense. I googled the topic because, again, I was getting tagged so much about it. I was like, there had to have been some beat writer out there or some source saying that Deebo Samuel either wants to join the Chargers or the Chargers are interested. And I wasn't able to find anything, but I did find an article on Bolt Beat, and I do think that may have started. No, it was actually another article that kind of started the rumors that the Chargers may be the best fit for him. But it definitely was an interesting read, and it was one that did make a lot of sense to me. And there's a lot of points from that article. If you guys want to check it out, boltbeat.com. Great beat writers for the Chargers. The threat of Deebo, Keenan, and Mike Williams would be absurd. The number one wide receiver group in the league by a far and a very wide margin, all right? And with Keenan, some would say maybe on the downswing of his career, likely to see more slot work very soon. I personally think that Keenan's going to stay at the level he is for a long time because it's just the kind of wide receiver he is, right? I use the Fitzgerald example a lot, where a lot of people thought Fitzgerald was done. He's on the decline. You put him in the slot, and man, this guy went to work. I think the same thing applies to Keenan Allen, so I don't want to see him going anywhere anytime soon. But adding a young superstar wide receiver at the same time, given Keenan Allen's age, the fact is it does future-proof this offense for very many years. Deebo Samuel just turning 26. He could be the Chargers' new wide receiver one for a long, long time. And this addition would cause a tilt in the AFC or the AFC West, I should say, that heavily favors the Chargers. Right at one point, you could definitely argue that the tilt was for the Chiefs, right? They had Tyreek Hill, they had, Kelsey, they had all sorts of weapons. Of course, Mahomes, they had all sorts of weapons out there to really take that division by storm, put up a lot of points, right? But now without Tyreek Hill, I think the window's somewhat open for the Chargers to overtake that. And adding another dynamic wide receiver, another dynamic weapon in whole, definitely could put them over the edge. And Deebo could also, in addition to that, solve the Chargers running back 2 problem while also bolstering the wide receiver group, right? He's a physical downhill runner. He got a ton of carries last season, 8 touchdowns on the ground. There's no reason to think that he can't be the guy behind Austin Eckler. So 2 birds, 1 stone. It's kind of a move that sort of makes sense on several parts of the roster. And additionally, you've also got to consider Deebo's benefit joining the Bolts as him a player, right? He has options to go to different places. Coming to the Bolts, I do think it brings a lot to the table to help him continue his career in the NFL, right? And I think it's for the short and simple answer of he would be paired with Herbert. Paired with Herbert, his potential is exceptionally higher than it was playing with Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, Garoppolo can be good at times, but let's be honest, he's nowhere near the top 10 in quarterbacks in the league, and Justin Herbert's making a case for top 3. Not to mention the kind of quarterback Justin Herbert is. He just loves to pepper those wide receivers with targets. I think Keenan Allen had somewhere around, 150 targets last season. Deebo put up those insane numbers, 1,700 yards and 14 touchdowns on 120 targets, if I do remember correctly. And that's absolutely insane. So the potential of what he could become with Justin Herbert is very beneficial towards him as a player. His ability to get open, his speed, his acceleration, all find more value with Herbert at quarterback. It doesn't stop there either. The Chargers, in my opinion, have one of the best defenses in the AFC. You could certainly argue maybe the best defense in the AFC West. It would give them a lot more opportunities to actually win games, go out there and compete for a Super Bowl. So it makes sense for Deebo. It makes sense for the Chargers, but the cost would be extreme. So there's no one debating that Deebo the player would be huge and it would be a big boost for this team, but the cost of Deebo is a completely different situation, and this is where the holdup is for me, right? Deebo to the Bolts is an insane thought, but very, very costly. In the article posted by Bolt Beat that I mentioned earlier, they listed the possible cost for Deebo Samuel being as such: our 1st and 4th round picks this season, as well as our 2nd and 3rd round picks next season. And to me, this is a Chargers Bolt Beat website, right? That's being optimistic. It's going to cost 4 draft picks, rounds 1 through 4 over the next 2 seasons to get Deebo on the roster. And now there's also talk that they'd want our 1st this year and next year to make it happen. A lot of people are saying that Deebo is worth 2 first-round picks. On a Niners website, Niners Bolt, or a Niners beat writers website, excuse me, guys, almost had to sneeze there for a second. We held it in. On a Niners site, they also mentioned that they would want 2 first, as well as Deebo, or as well as Derwin James for the Chargers. No, man, that's never going to happen. You guys are dreaming a little bit there. But let's use the example of a 1st through 4th, our picks from the 1st round to the 4th round over the next 2 seasons. Let's use that as an example going forward, right? That's still a lot. But Deebo's a heck of a player, and his cost is going to be high. And so in that case, maybe you do pull the trigger on that, right? But then we also have to take into account his cost in terms of extending him immediately. We'd have to get him his payday very, very soon. That's the whole point, that he's holding out and might get traded, right? Remember? And the Chargers would likely need to fork over a contract worth around, I'm going to say, let's guesstimate somewhere around $28 million annually, making Deebo the 2nd or 3rd highest wide receiver, paid wide receiver in the league. That's a lot. And yes, we can afford it, but it is a lot. And at this point, the Chargers would be paying, if you add in the contracts of, even just Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and then Deebo Samuel, you're paying somewhere, upwards of $70 million each year for just 3 wide receivers. You're putting a lot of stake into just that position. And yes, I'm all about adding more weapons for Herbert, using his rookie deal to our advantage, getting some superstars on the roster, but this is extreme cost. And Deebo Samuel, as awesome as he would be, it might be too sweet for me, right? You factor in the draft picks, you factor in his cap hit as well. It's just too much for the director. Now, my compromise here is a same plan but different strategy, right? If the Chargers are serious about adding a wide receiver that's a difference maker, they have several options, and of course one of them is going to be through the draft. At this point in time, if you just kind of keep you guys updated, I think the biggest rumor is that the Chargers are heavily looking at cornerback in the first round. But in terms of wide receiver, if they want to go Deebo or they want to go somebody in the draft, I would say the value is going to be found in the draft. Okay, and of course the trade is still on the table for other guys, maybe DK, maybe another speedy wide receiver in the NFL that wouldn't cost as much. But with how things are shaping up, I don't think it's necessary. Again, the draft is going to be a big asset here, and I get it. There's no guarantee that these rookies are going to live up to the hype, right? But man, it's really hard to argue against it. We're talking Jameson Williams, Chris Olave. There's options even in the later rounds like Calvin Austin. If they're adamant to trade, maybe, get back into the second round and get a guy like Christian Watson, right? And in my opinion, the Chargers should be targeting, a wide receiver that better complements their existing wide receivers. So, for instance, Keenan Allen, wide receiver 1, maybe our elite slot guy of the future. Mike Williams, big body possession receiver kind of guy. We need a speed guy to complement this formula to complete this set, right? And Deebo is great, but he's in no way a burner. His acceleration is next level, but his speed isn't quite to the level what I'm hoping to get in terms of complementing Keenan and Mike. And if we're serious about adding speed, please work out a much cheaper trade to go get, Jameson Williams if you feel like you got to go up and get him, right? Aim for Chris Olave and hope he's there at 17. Or trade up into the second round for Calvin Austin. But don't give up a king's ransom for Deebo Samuel, just in my opinion, okay? I think as exciting as it would be, it's not one that I'm on board with. So should it happen? Will it happen? Deebo Samuel to the Chargers. Nah, I don't think it'll happen. The Chargers are in a good spot to continue building their Super Bowl caliber roster without leveraging the future. And me personally, I don't think I would do this trade either, right? If we're talking just me, the director, as much as I love Deebo, his cost is just way too high. Personally, I would hope that we go offensive line or defensive back in the first round, or maybe even defensive line. Just add to that defense. If it's not going to be defense, get an offensive lineman. That's what I'm personally hoping for. But it also makes a whole lot of sense for the Chargers to target a wide receiver as well. Because, again, that would really tilt the Chargers' offense to be one of the best in the AFC West, and that's what it's going to take down that division. If this is the plan, everything I said about Deebo can in some way be applied to our first round rookie wide receiver as well. Jameson Williams better fits what the Chargers need right now. He fits, the complementing of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. It just fits a lot better, and I do think that ceiling is still pretty high, maybe even similar. Maybe not as high as Deebo Samuel, but definitely carries potential to be something that better fits what the Chargers are looking for. And they likely won't be, again, even Jameson Williams won't be at the level of Deebo, but my goodness, they should still help the Chargers round out one of the nastiest offenses in the AFC West. And it would be, again, a better fit in a year that features so many speedy wideouts. Don't go trading everything for a wideout that's amazing, but at a wildly overpriced cost. Go out there and find a wide receiver of the future that's going to be low on cap, not going to cost you a whole butt crap of draft picks to go get, and maybe better fits your offense. So there it is, guys. I tried to keep this video a little bit shorter. It's a topic that's been heavily requested to be covered because, again, the topic just kind of blew up overnight, and I wanted to make sure we get on here and address it. So let me know what you guys think. Are you willing to go out there and get Deebo Samuel, let's say for picks 1, 2, 3, and 4 over the next couple of seasons? If that is the cost, are you guys willing to go in on it, or do you disagree? Me personally, again, I'm not doing it, but I wouldn't shame anybody that felt that we should. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you liked what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up without the jersey and stay frosty. Deebo to the bolts. Probably a little too costly.